Hello from the Channel studio in London and welcome to another edition of Foreign Dispatches. I'm Teniola Oyetayo. On the program this week, as Israeli families reunite with hostages released by Hamas, Gazans use pause in fighting to reflect on the war's devastation while some attempt to return home. In Israel, emotional scenes emerged as hostages formerly held by Hamas in Gaza returned to their homes and families. Similar emotions resonated in the West Bank, where released prisoners were welcomed with joy. Despite a promising few days amid the temporary truce, there was also lingering anxiety for those who remain captive. Scenes like these unfolded in Israel and the Palestinian territories in recent days, as more hostages were let go by Hamas in exchange for the release of more Palestinians in Israeli prisons. The four-day ceasefire between Israel and Hamas took effect on Friday and was later extended by 2 additional days, raising hopes that more of the around 200 hostages who were taken to Gaza by Hamas militants during the October 7 attack could yet be released. On Sunday, Hamas freed 17 Israelis, including a 4-year-old Israeli-American girl, and Israel freed 39 teenage Palestinian prisoners. Hamas freed 12 more hostages, and Israel released 30 Palestinian prisoners on Tuesday, the 5th day of an extended 6-day truce. But as some hostages return, the painful wait continues for others. Dozens of families knew that their loved ones would almost certainly not be among the first hostages to be released as part of the deal, because mothers and children had been prioritized.
We want to pressure the government to release not only the children, also the children, but their parents are still kidnapped. There are young people, there are young soldiers, people who are innocent who were in this party and now they're kidnapped and we don't know if they're dead or alive. We have to have them home as soon as possible.
The government hasn't done enough, but I think the one who can do more are the Red Cross. And I want to tell the Red Cross, you are an humanitarian organization. It's your job. You promised us. And I think you should take care of them. I'm sure of that.
I know a deal has been on the table long before it was actually brought about and also notified to the families of the hostages. And I don't believe it happened fast enough. I don't believe we're pushing hard enough for it to continue happening. There's still a baby in captivity. There's still foreign citizens in captivity, which I think is outrageous. And yeah, I think they should be pushing far more to bring all of them, including men, elderly men, and all of the children that are in there outside.
The youngest hostage, 10-month-old Kafir Bibas, has now spent more than 50 days of his young life in captivity in Gaza. According to Israel, he has been handed over by Hamas to another Palestinian militant group, making his release complicated.
We have all of our family here, but not exactly everyone. We're missing Yarden, Shiri, Ariel, and Kfir. The 4 of them have been kept in Hamas captivity in Gaza for over 53 days. 53 days in which we don't know where they're being held, what is their condition, are they being fed enough, who is taking care of them, are they together, who is holding them, do they have showers, who makes them, who hugs them when they're crying.
Our message is to bring everybody home, to bring all the people that were kidnapped home. And when you look at Kfir, which is a 10-month-old baby, you need to ask yourself, is this an enemy of the Hamas? Is this someone that needs to be held captive? He's so young, he's so small, and we want him and all the others, like his brother, Ariel, 4 years old, and his mother and his father, Shiri and Yarden, we want them all back with us.
Although Israel has vowed to destroy Hamas following the October 7 attacks, some Israelis believe that a ceasefire is the right decision for now.
I believe that we need to continue the ceasefire. It's very complicated because we want to win this war. But first of all, we need to show the world that the hostage is the first, and we want peace and bring the children and the women home is the first things. And later we can continue the war.
I think it's the right decision because my heart is with all the families that have hostages in Gaza, and I believe that we should do anything in our possibility to get them out. And this is the only way, I think, in my eyes, to actually bring them home. And that's the most important thing we have to do right now. And then from then we'll move forward after we get all the hostages back.
We're still only at the beginning of children, women, elderly. We haven't even got to a point where all of them are released. We still have children there. And then after all the babies, children, women, elderly, we have men. Most of them, again, civilians, not even soldiers. So yes, we need all of them back home.
Palestinian authorities and other Arab countries have called for the ceasefire to be permanent.
As the Assembly's resolution had foreseen, only a truce could allow sincere efforts to begin to address the humanitarian catastrophe being inflicted by Israel, the occupying power, in Gaza. Only a truce could lead to the release of people held in captivity and avoid further regional escalation. This truce must turn into a permanent ceasefire. The massacres of Palestinian children, women, and men cannot resume, should not resume. You should not allow it to resume.
Meanwhile, Palestinian prisoners have alleged mistreatment while in Israeli jails. A 14-year-old boy said he witnessed beatings while in prison. Stories have also emerged from those freed from Gaza, painting a picture of weeks spent in discomfort, uncertainty, and fear. Meanwhile, Gazans use the pause in fighting to search for loved ones, with some risking the journey back home to the north. The war-torn Gaza Strip is still facing shortage of food, fuel, medical supplies, and shelters, despite the extension of the humanitarian truce between Israel and Hamas. For the first time in more than a month, Palestinian rocket fire and Israeli airstrikes fell silent over the Gaza Strip at the start of a temporary truce. As the tentative ceasefire between Israeli forces and Palestinian militants took hold, some of the hundreds of thousands of Gaza residents who fled fighting decided to try and return to whatever was left of their homes. In the southern city of Khan Yunis, which has been housing thousands of displaced families, including from heavily bombarded northern Gaza, streets were packed with people on the move.
I am now very happy. I feel at ease. I am going back to my home. Our hearts are rested. I am very tired from sitting at the camp without any food or water. At home we can live. We drink tea and rebuild.
The United Nations says around 2/3 of Gaza's 2.3 million residents are homeless, including most of the population of Gaza City and the rest of the northern half of the enclave, reduced to a wasteland by Israel's assault. Israeli planes dropped leaflets in the southern part of Gaza, telling residents not to attempt to return to the north, which it said remained a war zone and was not safe. Many Palestinians worry they will never be able to return home.
I see people coming and going, and I swear my soul is crying. My heart is crying. I just want to go back, even if just for an hour, to see my house in the neighborhood, to see Gaza City and what happens to it.
Even if I went back home, I fear I go and there would be another attack on the area and I die. I will only go back there once the war is over. I don't trust what Israel promises. I don't have faith in them, not even for an hour. I don't believe in this ceasefire. Only God knows what will happen, whether we will live or die.
The war has leveled large parts of northern Gaza, such as this area of Gaza City. For those who have made the journey back, it's a moment of reflection in the ruins of what was once their home.
As much as you try to retrieve things from the rubble, it's useless. Two things made me come back here. First of all, my cousin is still under the rubble, and no one has been able to get him out. Second of all, my painful memories. Today I have nothing in this world but memories. Everything is gone. Life is devoid of all meaning and humanity.
Meanwhile, the United Nations used the pause in fighting to get desperately needed aid into Gaza, but says much more is needed.
People are so desperate, right? You can see in adults' eyes they haven't eaten for a while. You can see that children are getting thinner and they haven't eaten for a while. And yet we're able to get to the hospitals, we're able to do the delivery, and then there's just this immense relief. Literally, some people, as they get water, start drinking the water immediately. They're not waiting to take it home. They, of course, will take some home, but it's just drinking water. They are thirsty. They've been thirsty for days. And that has been UNICEF's great fear. This is going to spill into waterborne diseases.
UN agencies have also voiced fears over the current health situation, with the World Health Organization warning more people could die from disease in Gaza than from airstrikes if the health system is not repaired.
So eventually we will see more people dying from disease than we're even seeing from the bombardment if we are not able to put back this health system and provide the basics of life, food, water, medicines, and of course fuel to operate the hospitals. No medicines, no vaccination activities, no access to safe water and hygiene, and no food. We saw a very high number of cases of diarrhea among infants. And again, there was no treatment available for them. You know, if you have a child with diarrhea, you need to give them rehydration in order to keep them going until they get better. And if you're not able to do that, they can die very quickly from dehydration.
Israel invaded the Gaza Strip in an operation it says is aimed at destroying the Hamas Islamist movement governing the enclave, after Hamas fighters launched a surprise attack on Israeli communities, killing 1,200 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Palestinian health authorities say more than 15,000 people have been killed in the devastating Israeli assault that has reduced large parts of the densely populated territory to rubble. Thanks for staying with us on the program. Extreme weather has arrived in Ukraine as tens of thousands of troops man frontline positions in the 21-month-old war with Russia. It comes amid fears Moscow could attack the power grid with airstrikes again this winter, leading to blackouts.
This video from Ukrainian authorities show what it's like on the roads as a severe snowstorm caused havoc in the country. Hundreds of cars and trucks were struck in snow drifts, some over 6 feet high. Hundreds of settlements were without power and more than a dozen roads closed. The south and central parts of the country were the worst hit. But as residents dig out the snow, tens of thousands of troops remain in frontline position in the war with Russia. Almost 2 years into the grinding war, families of soldiers are coming to terms with the prospect of a much longer and costlier conflict than they had hoped for, and one that some now acknowledge they're not guaranteed to win. 43-year-old Antonina gave her blessing when her husband joined up with tens of thousands of other Ukrainian citizens to defy the Russian invasion. Now she's finding it hard to cope, with no end in sight. Her husband has only had about 25 days home leave since he enlisted, and their 2 children are growing up without their father around.
We have gathered here today to make our government acknowledge that our husbands joined service at the very start of the war. We demand that the length of time the mobilized men must serve is clearly defined. It is very tough for them. They are exhausted. We are here to demand that they are given proper rest.
Her husband, a university lecturer with no prior combat experience, who's now a platoon commander, watched his son get married this year on his phone by video call from the ruined city of Bakhmut. Antonina and 25,000 others signed a petition to President Volodymyr Zelensky this autumn. They say military service cannot remain open-ended and insist troops be given a clear timeline for when they will be discharged.
It is a man that is dear to me, someone who has defended this country since the first days of the invasion. It is very important to me to know when he will be demobilized. It is very important. It is his right to leave. That is why we are here.
The campaign has included 2 small protests in Kiev's main square in recent weeks, despite martial law prohibiting public demonstrations since the start of the war. The foreign ministers of NATO member states met in Brussels on Tuesday to discuss support for Ukraine and next year's planned anniversary summit. Speaking before the meeting, NATO's boss, Jens Stoltenberg, urged members of the alliance to stay the course in supporting Ukraine as both the United States and the European Union struggle to agree on further military aid.
It's our obligation to ensure that we provide Ukraine with the weapons they need. Because it will be a tragedy for Ukrainians if President Putin wins, but it will also be dangerous for us. Because then the message to all authoritarian leaders, not only in Moscow but also in Beijing, is that when they violate international law, when they invade another country, when they use force, they get what they want. So this is about the whole idea of a rules-based international order where territorial borders are respected.
As Ukraine hopes for more military aid, Germany announced it will reach NATO's 2% of gross domestic product target for military spending in 2024.
Not at all, because we have underlined, especially with regard to Ukraine, that we are not only keeping up our military support for Ukraine's self-defense, but that we are increasing it by 8 billion euros. And we're making clear here also at the NATO meeting in Brussels with the NATO-Ukraine forum that the security and the peace in Ukraine is also the insurance for peace in Europe. And this is why we, Germany, as all our other partners, are keeping up and increasing our support for Ukraine, because Ukraine is not only defending the peace for its own people, but defending the peace in Europe.
The meeting took place amid gloom in Ukraine that a major counter-offensive launched earlier this year against Russian President Vladimir Putin's forces has failed to make substantial progress. The recent storm is also renewing fears that Moscow could target Ukraine's power grid this winter. Kyiv says Russia has attacked infrastructure 60 times in the past few weeks.
And finally, on the program, we head over to South Africa, where the Al-Kibulan Immigrants Awards highlighted the outstanding contributions of immigrant refugees in the country. Our South Africa correspondent, Innocent Somosa, was there and captured the spirit and stories of these inspiring individuals. Let's take a look.
The Al-Kibulan Immigrants Awards celebrate the diversity and resilience of those who have faced unimaginable challenges and against all odds have thrived.
The Al-Kibulan Immigrants Impact Awards stand as a testament to the power of unity in diversity. The remarkable contributions of immigrants and their invariable contribution in shaping our society.
And it's particularly important because through this type of events, we promote peace and social cohesion.
The Zulu Indian dances got everyone on their feet, moving to the rhythm. I had the privilege of speaking with some of the award recipients, and their stories are nothing short of inspiration, from entrepreneurs creating job opportunities to activists championing human rights.
Absolutely, it's such an honor to be this award, and especially the first years of this award, and being part of the humanity activities that we've been doing for the last 3 years. We are very young organizations, but we actually impacted almost 100,000 people in South Africa.
It means actually deeper than what I just said, because it's as a Colombian that came some years ago to settle in a new place, it has not been easy as an immigrant, and I know that many people like me faces a lot of challenges in many topics.
It's just an encouragement, like they see. For me, it actually means that the people, like the world, is seeing what you are doing. It's just a word of encouragement for you to go forward and then to continue the journey that you have started like years ago.
Ambassador Andre Nzabayeke emphasized Nigeria's significant role in supporting South Africa in its struggle against apartheid.
I think I mentioned Nigeria as an example because I can tell you that many African countries really contributed heavily to the liberation of the entire Southern Africa. Many Africans for different countries sacrificed resources, money, and a lot of things to really to help liberate.
And this is what they love about the host nation.
I love everything about South Africa. I love the weather, the music, the food. I've been here for a very long time, so almost all my friends are South Africans. I think even though I'm a Ghanaian, this is home.
What an inspirational, motivational time it has been here. Indeed, this has been a celebration of unity, diversity, and culture.
From Johannesburg, South Africa, Innocent Somosa for Foreign Dispatches.
And that's the program today, but remember, our top stories are never far away. You can catch them on channelstv.com. Thank you for watching. I'm Tenyola Oyetayo. Bye for now.